for Allegheny County Board of Public and Second Appeals meeting. Slightly late, and please have roll call.
Mr. Harvestine?
Here.
Mr. Smythe?
Here.
Ms. Montgomery?
Here.
Mr. Sewell?
Here.
Ms. Wetmore? Here.
All right, move on to approval of the regular meeting minutes for April 11th, 11th and 2024. And a motion, please.
I'll second the approval of meeting minutes for April 11th.
Second. Thank you.
We can't hear. I can't hear.
It is very soft.
In the meeting minutes for April 11th and 25th.
Well, it's just for the 11th, it's the date for 25th. I apologize. So it's for the April 11th.
Barbara or Wade, we
Yes.
can barely hear.
Can you raise the volume somehow? One moment.
Or yell at us.
I'm sorry, volume.
Can you hear us now?
Yes,
Any better?
Any better?
better.
I'm gonna look on her face. I'm not sure. Hassan,
Yes.
can you try turning up the volume from your side? John seems to be okay with it.
Yeah, I'm okay with it now too. He answered, so thank you.
All right, getting back then to our approval of the regular meeting minutes for April 11th. We have motion and second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. Moving on to public comment period. Mr. Silvestri, good morning. How can we
Good
help?
morning. I think I'm going to donate an American flag so we can do a Pledge of Allegiance as we start the meeting. But in any event, I'm here to speak about tax parcel 1207 and 106. The property owner name I'm sure you're familiar with is Luann Burns, because she has been multiple emailing for lack of a 2022 decision after receiving a 2023. Typically, as I've said before, for others in her situation, I begin the hearing when it's noticed for 23, that it's for both 22 and 23. But in my conversation with your solicitor yesterday, I understand that Barbara Baldwin listened to the audio and that was not done. I'm looking at her file that I have, and what I see is the school district did not attend, and to my pleasant surprise, this property owner decided to obtain an appraisal report from a certified residential appraisal with an effective date of January 1, 2023. The solicitor's advice, which I think is legitimate advice, is for this property to have a rehearing for 2022. I am requesting that the solicitor and the board consider the fact that the school district did not appear. We don't have a lawyer comps that may or may not have been cherry picked. What we have is a certified appraisal, and I don't see any reason why we need to have a new hearing, especially where there's an appraisal and no contrary school district evidence. What can also be done is simply to have a communication, email or phone call with Don Walsh to say, do you object to the reissuance, object to the issuance of the 2022 based upon the 2023 being decided on an appraisal report. So with that said, that is what I have. I did not see anything on the solicitor's report agenda for this block and lot number. Thank you very much.
You.
Just so you all know, and Mr. Sylvester summed it up correctly, the reason this didn't appear on my report is because I don't believe at this point the board action is appropriate. I'll read the other last meeting because the evidence wasn't, you didn't state it's the same for 2022 as 2023. And the appraiser's effective date is January 1, 2023, which gave me pause to just apply the 2023 evidence backwards to 2022. So that's why my recommendation was to just have it read. It does not require board action. It requires consent.
Okay. So that's the recommendation.
That was my recommendation.
Ms. Hoffman, okay. Very good. All right, moving on.
We have another members of the public.
Mr. Silvestri, can you hear? I'm having trouble hearing as well.
No, I didn't hear any of the discussion.
Yeah, we can't hear the discussion. We heard Barbara initially when she asked us, but we can't hear anything now.
Hello, I'd also like to jump in here. The board meeting is not audible from a viewer perspective. You guys are too far away from the microphone, it would appear.
No, our microphone is actually right there. Perhaps our microphone is broken, but our microphone, we've never had that problem before. Our microphone is right in front of our board chair.
Same place it's been for years.
Are you hearing anything right now?
Yes, we can hear you. You sound like, you know, maybe the microphone's broken is what I'm getting.
It could be that the further microphone is working and the close one is not. But again, we wouldn't have a way to do that. So we'll have to just keep our voices up and hope that the second microphone picks us up and then have it work for everybody.
Yeah, Amy, we could hardly hear what you just said.
That's probably it. That microphone's probably not picking up voices. So we're requiring the second one to pick us up. Because when we can, they can hear us, but then they won't. We like to all move to the chair. If we can do that.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Let me do this. If I stand right here, can you hear me?
Yes,
That microphone's picking up.
Right there.
If I stand right here, can you hear me?
yes.
It's not as well, and it just sounds like voices. We can't decipher the words.
We had a dead mic.
It's back where you are now, Amy. It's
So we'll go
jumping.
back.
Sure. Okay. That's good.
I don't think that box knows. No, because I think that box runs up to your wall.
Board in the round.
Why? Did you ask why?
The alto section. Hello, can you now hear us?
Yes, I do so.
Lassard, can you now hear us?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I'll repeat what I said. What I said for the board was that my advice to the board was to just rehear 2022 because number one, the record didn't show that the 2023 evidence was intended to be retro. And based on the evidence, since it was a appraisal with an effective date of January 1, 2023, from the evidence, it isn't apparent that it was intended to be retroactive. So the safest course of action for the board would just be to rehear 2022 and let Mr. Silvestri present whatever evidence he'd like at the rehear. I understand it's additional county resources and it's additional time, but I believe that's the prudent course of action. I believe the board can go.
Yes.
Yes.
All right, the next, excuse me, do we have a public comment?
Mr. Derek?
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes. So Mr. Derek is on the agenda. He's currently, items consideration from
Sorry. I want to jump in. I can hear voices, but it's not clear.
I'm in the same situation. I agree with Mr. Richard.
Mr. Derek Richard, he was a last minute add, and I had it updated on the agenda. But he is actually, and now that I looked at this morning again, I believe that he is actually looking to file a late file appeal for 2022. He had a timely file 2023 appeal, which was scheduled and heard. He's received a disposition for it. He's quite pleased with the disposition, but he did indicate to me over the phone that he was informed that it would be retroactive to 2022, which is not. So, and he also indicates that he wasn't aware at the time that the county had reopened 2022. So this technically is a late file appeal and probably should not, move forward in terms of on the agenda. But I will allow for him to speak to his request.
Okay.
We'll have to basically.
Generally, late file appeals are filed with the board and the board schedules a time for those to be heard. Because they're extraordinary relief that is very, very rare to be granted under only certain circumstances, because of legal requirements.
Mr. Richards, you wish to speak?
So good morning. I agree with most of what Barbara said, and I appreciate her going over this and getting it into the agenda on time. So just a quick overview of the situation. I purchased the home in August of 2022. Had I known the appeal window had reopened in 2023 due to all of the evolving circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic and whatnot, I would have filed the appeal in 2023 timely, as I did for the 2023 year as well. I'm speaking to the 2022 year. Like I said, I wasn't aware that this window had reopened for 2022, or I would have filed a timely appeal.
Thank you. Sorry. Got your name confused there. Ms. Shrunk, do you have anything else to about that?
I mean, if that is all he's going to present, I would tell the board again that non-per time relief is incredibly extraordinary. There's only, I think, 4 or 5 circumstances where this board can properly grant non-per time relief, and those unavailability, medical emergency, military service, things of that nature. And I didn't hear that from what the gentleman shared with us. So my recommendation, if he has nothing further, would be to deny the request. But again, that's an extraordinary procedure even for the board, because usually we hear these separately.
Understood. Thank you. And then I'll throw it back to the board members. Anybody wish to make a motion?
What would happen if we didn't make it?
So they can vote it off.
Nothing would happen. But he is presenting the request, so I would suggest that the board either grant the request, deny the request, or table the request for a hearing later.
I would move that we deny.
Second.
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed?
Mr. Derek, could you hear what was said? It's still challenging, guys.
I don't know what
We
more
have
we
no-
can do.
We have no control over that, unfortunately.
Mr. Derek, could you hear what was just said?
What was the outcome of the vote you guys had?
We declined.
Alrighty. Thank you. Have a good day.
Anything further we have in public comment? We'll move on to the solicitor's report. Michelle.
And I'm very, very sorry. I'll try to keep my voice up the best I can. I have a very long report today, but I'll try to move through them quickly. These are all, except for the very last item, exemption appeals that Mr. Montgomery heard in November before he left. So bear with me. The first one is just informational only. The parties did not appear, so there's no board action required. The second, Greystone Theological Institute, parcel 342, K as in kangaroo 241. The county denied the 2021-2022 application based on timeliness and granted the exemption for 2023 and forward. The application was received on October 11th, 2022, which was way past the deadline of March 1 of the tax year. So we would recommend denial of that. So
Or denial of the 2022 or?
we're denying 2021 and 2022 for parcel 342 K241.
Ms. Shrimp, I have a question.
Sure.
Does OPA make a ledger of the exemptions? You don't have, you don't vote, otherwise we don't vote. Is that it?
Solicitor's report?
Oh, this, okay, your report. Okay. So you
I did.
prepare the exemptions, not OPA.
Correct.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Correct.
First. Okay.
Do you need an extra copy of the solicitor's report?
No, we good.
Okay. Do you need a
And then
motion?
motion for 21 and 22.
Motion to deny, the 21-22 application based on timeliness for 342 K 241.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, we have moved to deny this.
Thank you. The next one is Norfolk Southern, parcel 361, S is in Sam, 397, tiebreaker 03. This is a PERDA exempt property, which means it's owned by the railroad, and now it's owned by the Allegheny Valley Joint Sanitary Authority, which is also an exempt entity. And there seemed to be an issue with when the declaration of taking was filed, the tax exemption came off, even though legally the second a declaration of taking is filed, title transfers to another exempt entity, and they filed a timely exemption, but somehow that just didn't transcribe right because of the declaration of taking. So based on the documentation, the solicitors would recommend granting the exemption for 2021 and forward.
Motion to approve the exemption for 361 S 39703.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Thank you. The next one is Oakmont Community Foundation, parcel 363, F as in Frank 195. This is, the county denied the exemption based upon use. This is a vacant piece of land that the intention is that it's going to be used for a public parking lot. There was no evidence presented at the time of the hearing of the actual use of who was going to own the parking lot, who was going to operate the parking lot, or what government burden the parking lot was going to relieve the government of. So based upon lack of evidence, we would recommend denial.
Any motion?
Motion to deny, county exemption for property 363 F 195.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed.
Next is Genesis Corporation, parcel 746, P as in Paul 154. The county denied the tax exemption for 2022 and forward based upon lack of actual use. The owner filed this appeal. This is the owner's appeal. Testimony at the time of the hearing showed significant expenditures of funds to support the use. You know, obviously they're fixing up the property and improving it so that it can be used towards the exempt use. The solicitor's office would recommend granting that exemption from 2022 and forward.
Thank you. Any motion, please?
Motion to grant the tax exemption for property 746 P 154.
And the second?
So I'll second.
Thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Exemption granted. Next.
Number 6, I'll bring to you at the next meeting. I need to re-listen to the actual audio on it. Number 7 is Total Salvation Ministries, parcel 455, P as in Paul 141. This is an interesting property that the property transferred from one ministry to another ministry, but for a year, there was an error in the deed. Whoever did the deed actually titled it to the gentleman in his sole name and not in the ministry's name. So it took a year for that to be corrected. The corrected deed has been filed, and so it actually was exempt from 2021 and backward, and exempt from 2023 and forward, but 22 was just sort of hanging out there, not exempt. So we would recommend granting the exemption for 2022 only.
Thank you. Have a motion.
Motion that we approve the exemption for parcel 72C 246 for the year 2022.
One second.
Oh, yeah, sorry. Hello, sorry.
Second.
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Was there a tax exemption filed
Yes,
with OPA? OPA rejected it because of the deed.
because of the deed being in his name, not in the ministry. He filed it on behalf of the ministry.
Good.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So passed. Next.
8, 9, 10, all don't require board action. Number 11 is parcel 639, D as in dog 22. Not even gonna try. Somebody would like to try to make that pronunciation.
Tana.
What'd you say?
Tana.
It's a song from the 60s.
This is actually a monastery. The county denied the exemption from 2023 based upon use. The property at issue, this is a large religious compound, and this parcel is actually used for housing of monks. So it's more akin to a parsonage than an actual monastery. It's not used for actual worship, regularly stated worship. It's used for housing of monks as they travel. So based upon that, because of its relationship more to a parsonage than a monastery, we would recommend denial of that exemption.
Move to deny 639D 22. As stated.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved.
Item 12 was withdrawn per owner, no board action required. Item 13, Masonic Fund Society, 218A is in Apple 125. This was the OPA denied this exemption because the property wasn't qualified as a 501c3, but actually under the statute, you can qualify as a 501c2. This is a 501c2. It has to deal with fraternal organizations and things of that nature. So based on the documentation and the review of the law, the Solicitor's Office would recommend granting that exemption.
Everybody hear that? Okay, I have a motion then.
Motion to grant the exception to property 218A 125.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Moved and passed.
Next, Plum Borough, parcel number 849, J is in Jackson 89. This property is adjacent to the ball fields up at Plum Borough and is used as overflow parking for their sporting events. The county had denied it for 2023 based on actual use. We would recommend granting the exemption based on the evidence presented at the time of the hearing for 2023 and forward based on public use.
Motion, please.
Motion to grant exemption for parcel 849J 89.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Granted. Move on.
The last one I have for you that's an exemption appeal is Wonderland Stables. It's parcel 833, M is in Michael 48. The county denied the homestead exemption. This is a homestead exemption. This is a little bit different because of the tax exemptions. This is a homestead exemption because the property is owned by an LLC. by law, homesteads are defined as owned and occupied by a natural person. No, LLC is not an actual person. Those don't follow that we would recommend denial of this.
Move to deny the homestead request for 883M48.
Second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion is denied. Thank you.
The very last thing I have for you is 1213 F as in Frank 383. This lady requested an administrative review, and we actually, it became very confusing, and we looked at the documents. The property was submitted as a base year appeal with no evidence submitted. There was the school district brought evidence of a 2021, this is an owner appeal. The school district brought evidence of a 2021 sale. The hearing officer report is very confusing, and it doesn't appear that, it appears that they intended it to be a no value change, and then but then they had the 2022 sales written down, and the CLR got applied to the 21 sale, and it got issued a value with the, and I see Mr. Sully shaking his head and everyone else sort of doing the same. Very, very convoluted mess.
Yes.
After reviewing it, it should have been a no value change, and my recommendation to the board would be to rescind the disposition and reissue it as what it should have been, which was a no value change, which is what the notes show. The hearing officer report just doesn't reflect the notes.
1213F383.
Second. All in favor? Any opposed? So moved to
And while that's all I have on my written report, I just wanted to take a moment to give you all like a major shout out that currently sitting at O2A right now, there are only 93 appeals. I'm sorry, there are 93 appeals that haven't been scheduled. And those are some that we have obviously reheard. So for 2022 and 23, you're just down to 93. So less than 100. And sitting at O2A, which means are the ones that are still working their ways through the files that have problems, you're down to less than 400, you're at 324. So I just want to tell you guys great job.
Thank you very much. Moving on, Hills Department. Ms. Brown, are you here?
I am. Can you hear me?
There you are.
All right. Good morning.
Good morning.
So you've received our report, the appeals report from tax year 2020 through 2024. The numbers are as Solicitor Shrimp has stated, that they look better, I think, with each board meeting. And we are continuing to schedule residential hearings through the end of May. And by the time the next board meeting is on the 9th, we will have turned over and started scheduling commercial hearings for the month of June. So you'll see the numbers still going down. That is actually all I have, and we're scheduled out through May 17th right now.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Anything else you would like to add? Anything from the board? Okay, thank you. Moving on. Ms. Brooks. Are you there? She was there.
So,
She may have had to go to another meeting. Can you hear me? This is Mary Beth.
Yeah.
Okay. She did not give me anything that she was intending to share, so I think we will pass on that.
All right, thank you very much. Items for consideration from board administrator, Ms. Dolan.
Right, you guys have my report here, a couple items on, a few items on my report here. The first one is the reissue disposition of the current date for parcel ID 189H124. This was a timely filed school district appeal in Brentwood for tax year 2022. The hearing was scheduled and heard June 13th, 2022. The property owner was not called as the telephone number was not provided, and the disposition notice was mailed November 13th of 2023. The property owner contacted OPA and BPAAR regarding her appeal. She expressed that she was a first-time home buyer and didn't understand the appeals process. She thought that the school district was filing the appeal on her behalf. And until she received the disposition notice and noticed that her value had changed. And at that time, when she received the disposition, she experienced the medical kind of issues. And she's just wanting to get a new disposition of current date so that she can appeal it to the DOD.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? There's a member wish to make it.
Motion to reissue the disposition of candidate parcel ID 2098-124.
A second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved and approved. Everyone?
And the next one is also a request for a reissued disposition of the current date. Again, this was a time and filed municipality appeal for tax year 2023 at West Smithfield. The hearing was scheduled and heard November 2nd of 2023. The property owner was not called, as a telephone number was not provided or available for the hearing officer. And a disposition notice was mailed March 15th of 2024. She initially desired to have a rehearing because she was not called. She did. The hearing was November 2nd. She followed up November 3rd, which I found an email that she sent. She really was wanting to be on the hearing, but if not, she will take the reissue disposition so that she can come to the community. So I just wanted to let you all know that she did out.
Barbara, when you say a new disposition with a current date, is that saying, when you say disposition, is that a new hearing, or are we just reissuing what was already decided upon?
We're just
Yeah,
reissuing
just
what was all, what you all decided upon.
It basically just opens her window, she wants to appeal it.
Right, it resets the time frame for her.
Okay. Motion to request for new disposition with the current date, parcel ID 238P165.
All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved. And approved. Moving on.
Okay, the next is a rescind and reissue for parcel ID 354 R's and Robert 160. Attached to my report is Mr. Zawiski's the disposition notice and also a notice of assessment change. So apparently, before his appeal hearing was scheduled to be heard, OPA went out and did a field check, and they came back and there were some changes. The original was 526,300, and it took it down to 504,000. At the hearing, though, the hearing officer recommended a no change of 504,000. However, it was changed back to in the review process back to the 526.3. So he's just basically indicating if it was going to be a no change, it should have been with the county, the other 504. So we're going to rescind and reissue the disposition of 504,000.
Makes sense?
Motion to rescind and reissue parcel ID 254 R 160.
A second. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Moved and moving on.
So I had a couple of rescissions and reissues that came to me from Ms. McGraw, and the last page reflects these two.
Okay.
Sorry?
And I spoke with her yesterday, she said she was going to try and do
So the first one is for 133, and these are just data clerical errors. The 133P, 168, for tax year 2022 and 2023. The value to be rescinded in total is 63,900. The value to be reissued is 103,700. And then we could take both of them in action because that's basically 84J8 for tax year 2023. The value to be rescinded is, in total, is 6,451,100. Value to be reissued is 6,900,600.
Motion please.
Motion to rescind the issue as stated for parcels 133 168 and parcel 84 Jackie.
Thank you. Second. In favor? Aye. Any opposed? So moved.
The last one is for Mr. Wayne Kurtz, commercial hearing officer. Elaine is a returned commercial hearing officer. She became a hearing officer back in 2017. But moved out of the county area, and she believed that she would not be able to conduct hearings because she was in the Cranberry now. Butler County. So, Mr. Sully had spoken with her and had cleared that up, and we'd like to get her back.
You attended the training.
She attended the training, so we'd like to, just for the questions, her commercial hearing officer comes out, and I'll work her out
We have to make a motion now?
Yes, yes. These are all for her contract, so.
All right.
I move to approve the line first.
No, I can't hear anything. I'm so sorry.
There's a truck going by.
Pardon me?
There's a truck going by. A truck. They need new windows.
I'll move that we have Elaine Kurtz as our commercial hearing officer for the board.
So moved. Ms. Snyder has her hand up. I don't think it's any questions.
Okay, go ahead.
Ms.
Snyder? I see a wavy hand.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I did check with Carolyn. She had to sign off to head to a different meeting, but she did want to share with the board that we do have the CLR in the template in IAS World in QA. And so testing is underway from the IT side to make sure we're not breaking any of the features that BPAAR or OPA use by adding that. And I hope to have further feedback next board meeting.
Thank you.
Breaking news. Okay, thank you.
My apologies. I didn't know she was saying something that had to do with.
No.
One question, the CLR that Mr. Sully emailed us last week is, I believe that number is different than a number that had been discussed in January. Mary Beth, when you mentioned the CLR, do you have numbers of what the CLR number is, or are you just referring to the idea of having the CLR automated?
So Ms. Montgomery, I can explain that. I think that the one that Mr. Sully sent out is the 2024 CLR that will be used for 2025, and that's 52.7. I always get my decimal mixed up. And then this year, so the 2023 CLR for use in 2024 is 54.5. Yes, that sound right?
Yes.
So they're very close, but so that's next year's CLR.
Yeah, the letter stated for 2023. That was what was a little bit confusing.
So it is confusing because those are the way STAB calculates the CLR is they take the sales from 2023, issue a CLR in 2024, but the way Allegheny County hears their appeals, that CLR is used for 2025.
Wow.
Yes.
They have to have a complete year to calculate a number, and that's what's applied to the following.
Ms. Montgomery, there's a 2-year time lag Allegheny County, as Ms. Trump said, there's a 2-year time lag because our appeals calendar is different than 66 other counties, period. But it is what it is. It's 54.5 this year.
50, I'm sorry, what'd you say?
54.5 for our appeals for this year, common level ratio, 54.5.
Thank you.
All right, I believe we're in the middle of a motion for, Ellen first.
Mr. Taylor making a motion and Ms. Carmichael seconding it.
Did you vote? All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed? We are approved. All right.
I only have one thing else. I just wanted to, it's just, yeah, that's fine, but there's just another thing, but, I just wanted to, just to let the board know that I will be probably, S9 message to ethics and, planning for the social storms.
You know who's missing?
Yeah, that way, that's.
You got mine.
Did you say yesterday?
Yeah.
You have mine.
I had yours, and I had,
Mine's on mine.
And I'm missing.
You said you had,
I will take care of mine. Moving on to the board approval list. We have for April 25th, just one property, that's why we went through one F. I believe that's 10. For April 25th, prior year 21, I'm sorry, the last one was 2018. This current one is for 2021. Block and lot number 15, and Mary 98 on property. For April 25th, today, the prior year 2022, we have this starting with parcel ID 660, dated 60, and ending with 670 and Mary 7. Next list. April 25th again today for year 2022. Starting with property ID 25K25. And, I'm sorry? 2,200. I'll just draw one here. Okay, read any of these wrong. And ending with 477E135. Moving on again for today's for year 2023, with property starting with 2, E. Edward 530, 530, and it looks like 530, 0.
Yes, that's 253,
Thank you. And ends with 135, 9, E, 237. Going around the room, Mr. Sniper, any person people?
Do the interim taxes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. Gonna have to be done separately, I guess. All right, I have this starting with 0706 E101, and ending with 199 M9. Next sheet, starting with 917 F46, and ending with 913 M32. All right, going around the room. Mr. Snyder?
And we'll see if
Love to meet. Mr. Turner? Ms. Montgomery?
None.
Thank you. Mr. Sewell?
None.
Yes, sir. Myra? No. And I have none. No motion.
Motion to approve the, board list as read, to the record.
Thank you.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So moved. Moving on, any old business? So we have time with technology, COR.
We have good news. That's it. We're getting there. That's a good deal.
What do you got?
Oh, what do I have?
Yes.
Well, I received the update, and we're gonna get this in 2 weeks. You know, I'm gonna keep this on the agenda until we have the ability to do this. I'm just gonna ask you one question. Other than the first year of a reassessment, we will always apply the CLR, am I correct?
That's correct.
So this is important. Moving forward, thank you.
And the first year of reassessment, there is a CLR, but it's funded.
100%, full money.
So yeah, there's technically a CLR, but, so we are applying a CLR, but it's
Right.
a technicality.
I'm gonna call my friend Raphael. He uses IAS.
All right, moving on to new business, regarding Captain Steigerwald. And that's candidate.
Because, since it was Cecilia and or myself circulated her, her resume, I spoke with her, yesterday as well. And she's a returning, well, she would be a return, she was a previous, residential, hearing officer, but I have met her.
I don't remember that name.
I don't recall.
I appeared before her many times as an authorized rep. She's an
Okay.
associate broker.
Yes, you
Am I right? Sure, that's right. She has qualifications.
And she's, you know, eager to, become a hearing officer here at this particular document. I think that, looking at her resume, she does, have, vast amount of, industry experience being a real estate agent and, doing some other work, that I think she's a good candidate for a residential hearing officer.
So I see this falling under board administrator. The other one.
I mean,
Why we have them in two different places? All right, I got a motion.
Move that we approve Kathy Steigerwald as the BPAAR hearing officer.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Action has requested. Anything else?
Yeah, I just want to state that if you have a moment to listen to the board meeting minutes, you'll see how challenging it is. And while I'd like to be present and I'm unable to today, I think this is healthy to have someone from the board be on the outside to see what the public is hearing and experiencing. And it was quite challenging. And I appreciate, I'm sure Mr. Sylvester appreciates also your efforts to come closer to the mic, but something just, I'm not sure what happened or what's going on, but it was hard to participate and engage today.
right, and
Very cozy.
I would have to say that there's been an awful lot of use. IT has had signs over here, it's had screens and that in some for certain things, but with other people using it, there's boards in the past. I'm not just pointing the fingers, but someone may not know not to do certain things and could put things out of line. And because we had a number of use of this.
Again, this one should be very limited to access, so those who have access, they need to make it.
We just have to put in a request to get it looked at, that's all. And honestly, I think this was an aberration. I think that the others that we had, when I would watch the videos, you could hear us. I mean, John, maybe you could chime in. I think that this was that's why I'm thinking like that mic's either going bad or like Mark said, maybe something's unplugged.
I'll take a quick look at it and see if I can figure out if there's anything.
Yeah.
And just put into a,
It's hard to troubleshoot it when you don't do it.
put in that position.
It's hard to test.
Thank you, Ms. Montgomery.
You're welcome.
All right, then we will conclude today's meeting of the Allegheny County Board of Property Assessment. County review. Great, that's good. I thank you all for your attendance. Good day.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye. It is